There is a man you have seen before. He walks into a room and something shifts. Not because he announced himself. Not because he performed anything. He simply arrived. And the air changed. Women lean in when he speaks. Not because of what he says. Because of what he doesn't say. Because he never fills silence with nervous words. Because he never asks permission to take up space. Because when he looks at a woman, he is not trying to impress her. He is reading her, and she feels it. She cannot explain it, but she feels it. Now think about the opposite. The man who talks too much, who explains himself before anyone questions him, who asks a woman what she thinks about him before she has decided, who turns every silence into a question because silence makes him uncomfortable, who mistakes nervousness for honesty and oversharing for connection. That man is everywhere, and he is invisible to the women he is trying to reach. Not because he is ugly, not because he lacks intelligence, but because he is readable, because his need is visible, because everything he says is asking one question underneath it. Do you like me? And the moment that question is detectable, even wordlessly, the answer is always no. Niccolò Machiavelli spent his life studying the mechanics of power. Not the philosophy of it, the actual mechanics. How it moves, how it is felt, how it is transmitted without force and without noise. And what he understood about how powerful men communicate, about how they move through the world, especially in relation to women, is something most men alive today have never been taught. This is not a video about lines or tactics. This is a video about the psychology of presence, about why powerful men never ask questions they already know the answer to, about why the man who controls the frame controls the interaction, about why the most powerful thing you can say is sometimes nothing at all. Watch closely. Because once you understand how this works, you will never speak the same way again. Context. Threat setup. Let me tell you what is actually happening in most male-female interactions. Most men approach a woman with an invisible application in their hand. They are presenting credentials, listing qualities, trying to pass an audition. And underneath every word they say is a question they never ask out loud. Am I enough for you? The woman feels this immediately, not consciously, instinctively, because women are extraordinarily calibrated to detect need. Not because they are cruel, because they are wired for it. Thousands of years of reading social environments, reading emotional states, reading the difference between a man who is certain and a man who is performing certainty. This is built into her operating system. And the moment she detects the application, the moment she senses that you need her approval, the dynamic inverts. She is no longer wondering about you. She is evaluating you. And evaluation kills attraction. Machiavelli understood that power is never given to those who ask for it. It is taken by those who already behave as though they have it. This is not arrogance. It is not performance. It is the deepest form of self-possession. And it transmits not through what you say, but through what you don't. The words you withhold, the silences you hold without filling, the observations you make without seeking her validation of them. Powerful men do not talk to women to be liked. They talk to women to communicate something real. And then they stop. Because they do not need the conversation to go anywhere. They are not running from the silence. The silence is where their power lives. Later in this video, I am going to show you the specific moment most men lose the frame and what the powerful man does in that exact moment instead. It is not what you think. Stay with me. Authority anchor. Niccolò Machiavelli wrote that it is not necessary to have all the virtues, but it is absolutely necessary to appear to have them. Most people read that as cynical, as a license for manipulation. But that's a shallow reading. What Machiavelli was documenting was something far more precise. Perception precedes reality in every human interaction. Before a woman hears what you say, she has already formed an impression. She has scanned your posture, your pace, your eye contact, the way you occupy space, the way you enter a room. She has processed your energy before your words arrive, and that processing determines how your words land. A man with unshakable inner certainty can say very little and fill the room. A man running on approval seeking can say all the right things and be invisible. Machiavelli watched this play out across princes, generals, and courts. He saw men with far less talent command far more respect, not because they were smarter, not because they were richer, but because they had mastered one thing. They never revealed their need. They projected what they wanted people to feel. They controlled the image before the image could be assigned to them. He also documented something that became one of his most ruthlessly accurate observations about human psychology. People do not chase what they fully understand. Mystery is not a trick. Mystery is the natural byproduct of a man who is genuinely complete in himself. A man who does not need the conversation to go a certain way. A man who is not trying to win. This is the foundation of how powerful men talk to women. Not with special lines. With a different internal operating system entirely. Point 1. They speak in declarations, not applications. The first thing you notice about how powerful men talk to women is that they never ask questions that beg for approval. The average man says, "So what did you think of me when we first met?" The powerful man says nothing, because he does not need to know. The average man says, "I feel like we have a connection. Do you feel that too?" The powerful man creates the connection through his presence and lets her name it when she is ready. The difference is not in the words. It is in the underlying energy. One is applying. One is declaring. Powerful men communicate in statements, observations. Sometimes silence. They tell you what they notice. They tell you what they think. They do not frame their thoughts as questions needing her validation to become real. When a powerful man finds a woman interesting, he does not say, "I think you're interesting. Am I right to think that?" He says simply, "You're not like most people here." And then he stops. He does not explain it. He does not soften it. He lets it sit in the space between them. And in that space, her mind starts working. What did he mean by that? What did he notice? What does he see that others don't? He has entered her psychology without asking permission. Not through manipulation, through precision. He said one true thing and let silence do the rest. Machiavelli wrote that the man who explains everything reveals everything. His doubts, his need for approval, his hunger to be understood. The powerful man explains nothing that does not need explaining. And in the gap he leaves, she fills it with something far more powerful than anything he could have said. Point 2. They watch before they speak. The second principle is this. Powerful men are observers first and speakers second. While most men are performing, laughing louder than necessary, leaning in too fast, filling every silence with words, the powerful man is watching. He is reading the room. He is tracking her behavior, not her body. How she speaks when she is comfortable versus when she is performing. When her laugh is real and when it is a social reflex. What she says when she is trying to impress versus what slips out when she forgets to manage her image. And then, only when the moment is exact, he drops one line. Not a compliment, not a joke, an observation. Quiet, precise, without needing a reaction. You speak differently when he is around, or you laugh, but it does not reach your eyes. No tone, no judgment, no smile asking her to confirm he got it right. He simply names what he saw, and then says nothing else. And that is the moment her reality shifts. Because no one has ever done that before. Because every other man she has met was too busy trying to impress her to actually see her. And here is a man who was not performing at all. He was watching, and he saw something she thought was invisible. Eclipsophy, one of the most studied channels in this niche, documented this dynamic in their highest performing video. Women forget compliments. Women forget flings, but they never forget the man who saw through their mask and named it without seeking anything in return. Because in that moment, you are not a man trying to get something from her. You are a man who already sees more than she shows. And that is the most unsettling and magnetic combination she will ever encounter. Point 3. They use silence as statement. The third principle is the one most men find hardest to master because it requires doing nothing. Silence. Not the silence of a man who has nothing to say. The silence of a man who has something to say and has decided not to say it yet. There is a moment in every interaction where a man feels the pull to fill the space. She says something ambiguous. She tests him with a provocative statement. She pulls back slightly and waits to see if he chases. And the average man, every single time, rushes to fill the void. He explains, he reassures, he performs more. The powerful man holds the silence. He lets her statement land. He does not react immediately. He takes up the space of the silence instead of surrendering it. And in that pause, something shifts. Because she realizes this man is not controlled by her emotional temperature. He is not scrambling to maintain her approval. He exists independently of her mood. Machiavelli wrote that the man who controls the frame of an interaction controls the interaction entirely. The frame is the invisible structure that determines who is leading. And whoever moves first to fill the silence has surrendered the frame. This is why powerful men let silence sit. Not to be rude, not to be cold, but because they understand that in the pause is where respect is built, where she begins to wonder, where the question forms in her mind, why doesn't he need to fill this? And that question, that single unanswered question, is worth more than any line ever written. Here is what most men never realize about this entire framework. It is not a performance. You cannot fake it. Every technique, every principle, every piece of this, it only works if it comes from a place of genuine self-possession. A man who is genuinely complete. A man who genuinely does not need her approval to feel whole. A man who is genuinely interesting enough that mystery is not a strategy. It is simply the natural result of a life lived at depth. You can steal the words, you can copy the silence. But she will feel the difference between a man who holds silence because he is powerful and a man who holds silence because he read somewhere that silence is powerful. The real work is internal. It is the daily discipline of becoming a man who does not need, who does not chase, who does not shrink himself to fit someone else's comfort, who has standards that are not for sale and a life that does not require her participation to have meaning. Machiavelli's insight was never about the specific moves. It was about the operating system behind the moves. A prince who genuinely holds his kingdom does not need to perform holding it. His certainty is visible in everything: his pace, his tone, the things he laughs at, the things he refuses to engage with. This is the difference between the man women cannot stop thinking about and the man who read the same techniques and wondered why they didn't work. The techniques are the shadow. The substance is who you actually are. Build the substance. The shadow takes care of itself. Empowerment, close. Here is the truth that sits beneath everything we have covered. The way a powerful man talks to women is simply an extension of the way a powerful man moves through the world. He does not perform. He does not apply. He does not fill silences out of discomfort. He does not explain himself to people who have not earned the explanation. He does not ask questions he already knows the answer to just to feel validated. He moves with the quiet certainty of a man who has done the internal work, who knows what he is worth, not because someone told him, but because his daily actions, his standards, his willingness to walk away when his values are crossed, have demonstrated it to him over and over. And women, all people actually, feel that certainty the moment he enters the room, before he says a word, before he makes a move, in the pace of his walk, in the steadiness of his gaze, in the comfortable silence he carries with him like something he is used to wearing. You cannot buy this. You cannot fake this. You can only build it, slowly. In the daily choices that nobody sees, in the moments you chose not to chase, in the moments you held your silence when everything in you wanted to explain, in the moments you walked away from what was comfortable because it was no longer worthy of your standards. Machiavelli spent a lifetime studying men who commanded rooms, who moved through the world with a weight that preceded them. And the common thread he found was never looks, never wealth, never charm. It was the absence of need. The man who needs nothing from the interaction controls the interaction entirely, not through aggression, not through coldness, through the unshakable internal gravity of a man who is already complete. That is who you are building, not a man with better lines, a man with a different foundation. Start there. Everything else follows. Write gravity in the comments right now if this landed differently than you expected. And if you are serious about understanding the psychology of power, subscribe. We go deeper every week. The work never stops, and neither do you.